Breaking news, latest headlines, extreme weather. We found a pattern. Ladies and gentlemen, hope you're doing well. Thank you very much for joining us. It's Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Happy holidays. You know, when I think of Christmas Eve, I was like, wait a second, Christmas Eve. Eve is before Christmas. Does that mean that Eve was actually here before Adam? Wow, that's a whole other podcast. We'll talk about that later. But we're here to get into, I have a plethora of news articles that I want to share with you. I found a pattern with Planet X/Planet Nine, and I've been looking at archives all the way back to the 80s, yes, that show very similar characteristics of today's Planet Nine. But they were saying the same thing about Planet X 50 years ago. It's really interesting. And we're going to look at some of the patterns. We're going to talk about it. We're going to get into the Science America article. We may be on the brink of finding the real Planet Nine. So they said about Planet X 50 years ago. Science alert, even NASA can't explain the alarming surge in global heat that we're experiencing. Science alert, something in Earth's core may be altering the length of days. Do you remember the CNN news article that came out referencing a science paper where they took seismic data, like these seismic waves and earthquakes, and they essentially were able to capture the core's movements without actually going into the core. And it shows that the core itself is like a blob within a blob, and it's slowed down so much that it looks like it's reversed, even though it hasn't. It's just a perception thing, but it's slowed down substantially, and it could be linked to the extreme weather that we're dealing with right now, the weakened magnetosphere, combined with possibly a incoming body that is outside of, like, it's beyond Pluto right now. We're going to get into that in a minute. We're also going to talk about these atmospheric rivers that are driving extreme temperatures across the US, and the West Coast has just been getting hammered with these atmospheric rivers. We're going to get into something that's called mirror life. Scientists were working on, it's referenced as mirror life because it takes DNA, but instead of it uses the opposite characteristics of this DNA. And if it was to get out of a lab and spread, it could literally create an extinction level event beyond Dr. Evil's wildest dreams. We're going to talk about how the position of the magnetic North Pole is actually officially changed. So there's a new official position now. Remember back in 2011, it was making some extreme shifts, slowed down a bit since then. This is a pretty cool article. Interstellar tunnel found that connects our solar system to other stars. And then popular mechanics, scientists are pretty sure they found a portal to the fifth dimension. So now we're reading these articles from mainstream news and science that sounds like science fiction. It's so cool. Love it. Popular mechanics, farmers say that that the sun actually turned their tractors into demons. Yeah, remember Maximum Overdrive, AC/DC, Who Made Who, Emilio Estevez. I'm showing my age again here, but back in the 80s, there was a film out called Maximum Overdrive where essentially all machines and cars became possessed by the earth and sun changes. And recently a report came out that these farmers were getting upset because they thought that their tractor, their John Deere tractor, got possessed by the sun. Hello. So then we're going to get into the conversation. Article came out. AI systems have reached human levels for general intelligence. So they reached a human level on a test for general intelligence. That's pretty cool. AI News, Manhattan Project 2.0, US Eyes AGI breakthrough, and escalating China rivalry. And Windows Central former Google lead says we should seriously think about pulling the plug on artificial intelligence once it starts to self-improve itself, because it's going to be very difficult to maintain that balance. Interesting. Aren't there stories of when the gods gathered around and they're like, we need to flood the earth because there's just too many people? And so there was this big debate between, oh, should we tell them? Should we let them build a boat? I mean, obviously, a lot of that's mythology and it's been watered down since the actual event, but that's peculiar. It's very interesting how certain events seem to mimic these ancient stories of mythology and astrotheology, etc. Also, want to let you know that there is a sale going on right now. It's a year-end holiday blowout sale at boomerboost.com. Click the link specific in the video description box and you can save an additional 20%. There's some big sales going on right now with certain products. These things are awesome, folks. So I've been taking the Boomer Boost now and the Gladiator Barley for about 3 years. The Boomer Boost has like 68 different vitamins and hundreds of different minerals and such. This is a product called Myotrol, which is cutting edge for muscle growth and muscle development. You definitely want to look into this. But take advantage of the sales. Take advantage of the big discounts right now at boomerboost.com. Click that link specific so you'll get the additional discount. You can use the code REX for an extra $5 off. You can mix and match the codes and the discounts. So boomerboost.com. And do yourselves a favor, become a Patreon over at our Patreon page, Leak Project. This is the library. Just to give you an idea, we have a plethora of interviews, the long format interviews, amazing guests, amazing people, a lot of topics that we only discuss on Patreon and leakproject.com. But there's a lot of stuff here and like full format, uncensored interviews. So it's definitely worth the $5 a month. You'll get thousands of hours of entertainment. So jump on over to our Patreon page and become a Patreon today. Okay, let's go. First article, the latest news updates on this Planet 9. But let's go back a minute. So we've got, actually, why don't we start off here? Let's start at the top. I'm even going to show you the news articles here from the 80s saying, hey, clues. We think we found Planet X. We think we found it. There's a good chance we found Planet X. And then, oh, no, it was swamp gas once again. The swamp gas, it overflowed and it caused Uranus and Pluto. It caused their orbits and Neptune to be, it like perturbed the orbits. It's this incredible swamp gas. Well, really, back then, they thought it was Planet X. And now, after 2003, when the Astronomers Union got together and they found Sedna, and they said, well, it's a dwarf planet, we need to come up with a new formula for what a planet actually is. So Pluto gets demoted, and then a couple of the astronomers that helped demote Pluto come up with another article and new information about Planet 9. So Planet X isn't real, but Planet 9 is. Are you following me here? Are you seeing the conditioning, the psychological change of the verbiage here? So it goes from Planet X. I've read people's comments where they said, I remember when Walter Cronkite was talking about Planet X. Well, there's news articles, front page news, Planet X, the search for Planet X. Recently, the past few years, there's been articles coming out saying that independent astronomers looking through the data from the 80s, where they use telescopes that have this like infrared telescope technology that can see dark stars. Well, they went through those data sets and they think that they found Planet X that was discovered in the 80s that then turned into swamp gas or a grapefruit-sized black hole. You remember that article? Like, we think we found Planet 9. Well, these other astronomers come out and they said it could be a grapefruit-sized black hole and not a planet that's 7 times the size of the Earth. Like, really? Ping pong. Hello, they're playing ping pong with your brain again here. So I did a pro search here to look at all the data I could find. And this is from the New York Times. This actually was the New York Times. Clues get warm in the search for Planet X. Let's look at some of these articles and data sets here. You've got, how many did we pull up? Let's look at all of them. 10 different sources. New York Daily News, Gizmodo, Wikipedia, CNET. Now, if we go back to the early 1900s, astronomer Percival Lowell proposed a large unseen planet beyond Neptune was affecting the orbits of Uranus and Neptune. His work led to the discovery of Pluto in 1930, which was initially thought to be Planet X, but later deemed too small to account for the gravitational anomalies observed. And that's New York Daily News, as well as Wikipedia, because we know everything's real on Wikipedia, right? The official source. In 1980, speculations were abundant because these claims emerged that NASA had detected a Jupiter-sized object, which was referred to as Planet X. Associated Press, Nanu article from 1984 suggested the object could be responsible for mass extinctions on Earth due to its gravitational influence, causing comet showers. And then these claims were later debunked as no credible evidence supported them. And that's phys.org, I think, or phys.org, Planet X myth debunked, and then New York Daily News. Then the theories of Nibiru became very popular after 2000. I remember around 2012, 2016. That was the hot topic. That was the hot video. You could post a video of a lens flare and even say in the video, oh, it's a lens flare. And it would get 100,000 views and 50,000 people would think it was Planet X or Nibiru or the Nemesis. And then the other half laughed or questioned. But like, seriously, I remember doing interviews several years ago, and I had guests on the show, and they're showing me lens flares or reflections off of buildings or photoshopped images that they swore were Planet X, and I was like, no, that's a reflection. No, that's Photoshop. You can tell by the way that the reflection is off of the water, and they just wouldn't believe it. They're like, no, I'm convinced. Well, it was allegedly in perihelion 8 years ago, and how come thousands of amateur astronomers didn't capture it? Well, you can only get it with a certain phone. You have to point it at a certain position to capture it. No, it's not how it works. If we could see it, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation right now. So these Nibiru conspiracy theories have been debunked over and over and over again. Now, with that in mind, there is plenty of scientific data that you can go and research, and even some articles that have came out recently describing how in the past, there's all sorts of different numbers. Some say millions of years, hundreds of thousands of years, but there is a lot of evidence in our solar system to show that there was an incoming solar body or astrological body that manipulated the orbits of our planets and caused great chaos. Look at Uranus as an example. I mean, it's tilted on its side. Hello. The orbits of the planets, the asteroid belt, the massive scar on Mars, the mythologies and the stories about the gods that are actually describing the planets at the time, the astrotheology. There's a lot of evidence that suggests we were visited in the past, close calls of astrological bodies. Now, if we can link that to Nibiru, Nibiru means the crossing. So there are a multitude of theories about what Nibiru is actually being referenced as in these ancient Sumerian tablets. I have read about Nibiru in at least one ancient Sumerian tablet, and once again, it's most likely referring to the crossing. Now, you can go read some other tablets that are translated through Oxford's website that describe Nibiru, but that's not Nibiru. It's like a capital in ancient Sumer or somewhere out there in Iraq. And so when we look at the data sets, there's plenty of data to suggest there was cause and effect from massive objects coming in from out of the solar system. But we just have to look at the mythology now as maybe bits and pieces, not quite as accurate as some people predict. But anyway, let's go back to this. Another related theory is that there's a nemesis, which has been proposed as a companion star that could disrupt orbits of comets and lead to periodic mass extinctions on Earth. And then the recent developments of Planet 9. In recent years, astronomers have proposed the existence of a new planet, referred to as Planet 9, which is hypothesized to be about 10 times the mass of Earth, located far beyond Pluto. And this idea reignited interest in the concept of Planet X as researchers continue to explore anomalies in the orbits of distant solar systems, objects that could be explained by such a planet. You can read about that in New York Daily News, as well as Central Maine. Now, once again, there has been no solid evidence of Nibiru with an orbit of 3,600 years. And that's what some of the ancient astronaut theorists suggest, is there's this orbit of 3,600 years of this massive planetary object. Those timelines are also referred to as SARs. SARs are, like, if you read through the Sumerian king list, which you can actually find that at the Oxford Museum in the UK, it shows these kings that ruled for a certain amount of time, and they rule for SARs, and a SAR is 3,600 years, and it describes these kings that ruled for 10, 20, 30, 40 plus thousand years. There's this great flood, and then they rule for hundreds of years, and then the further down it goes, it's like tens of years, 5, 7 years, etc. So some suggest the SARs are not referring to 3,600 years, but actually 1 year, 360 days. Some people say, no way, it's 3,600 years. So I'm not convinced of the 360 days on the SARs, but I could be wrong. It does appear that a SAR is 3,600 years. Let's go back to this. So there were front page news articles referenced about this Planet X. And let's look at some of the. We've got science, phys.org, space.com. Space.com came out with an article called Nibiru, the non-existent planet. In 1984, scientific discussion, December of 1984, a significant announcement was made regarding a possible planet found beyond the solar system. This was reported by major outlets like the New York Times, discussing the discovery of what was believed to be the first planet detected outside of our solar system. Now, this discovery wasn't directly linked to Planet X, although it did contribute to the ongoing interest in celestial bodies beyond Neptune. Well, they did call it Planet X in the news articles, so I don't know where it came up with that. But anyway, then there's the brown dwarf hypothesis. During the 1980s, researchers proposed that an unseen brown dwarf star could be influencing the orbits of comets and potentially causing mass extinctions on Earth. This idea was part of a broader discussion about Planet X and its possible implications of Earth's history. Scientific American in the early 1980s, Scientific American published articles discussing the possibility of Planet X. The New York Times, a notable article titled "Clues Get Warm in the Search for Planet X" was published on January 30th of 1983. And then the latest news on Planet 9 here is basically mirroring what they said back in the 80s. That's what's so fascinating about this, is I read these articles in this news, and it just seems like a pattern of repeating the same thing. But, oh no, we're going to find it tomorrow. We built a new $500 billion telescope, so we're going to find it. We're going to find it soon. Really, it's running out of places to hide. Well, what if they already found it 50 years ago? They're doing everything they can to keep it hidden, and at the same time, they're throwing out these little, these little carrots at the end of a stick. They're like, oh, we're going to find it. Yeah, we think we found it already, but we can't really tell. Ping pong, ping pong, ping pong. Now, you've all heard that the Planet 9, they say it could be about 7 times the size of Earth. A elongated orbit might take thousands of years to complete one revolution around the sun, which makes it extremely dim and difficult to observe. All right, so that's the first piece of news that I wanted to go over with you. Bing bong, bing bong. All right. How's everybody doing? I hope you're having a beautiful day today. Let me just jump on here real quick. Wonderful. Okay, fantastic. I do find, here's what I find interesting right now, is all the mythology and history that does talk about a nemesis star or some type of event that is catastrophic on a global scale. And it seems to be cyclical. And with all of the recent science that's showing how the Earth's core is slowing, we can clearly see the magnetosphere is weakening. The sun is more extreme. The weather is more extreme, at least what I've seen so far the past, 40 something years here. And people that have been here longer than myself are saying the same thing. They don't remember this type of weather. Now, that's pretty limited though. So if we look at these ice core samples and all the data, like the tree rings, there's definitely been cataclysms in the past that we can confirm. So maybe the weather's been even more extreme just hundreds of years ago or thousands of years ago in certain circumstances. But clearly we're seeing evidence of a changing climate. And I'm going to say all of the above once again. Some people want to say, oh, it's all connected to the sun. Humans couldn't do any of that. And then there's the opposite where humans, it's humans and cow farts that cause all the problems. I would say it's all of the above. I mean, clearly the forests and the deforestation and the forever chemicals and, you know, the factory farming and all the microplastics and the nuclear waste. And we could talk about that forever. That's going to have an impact on the environment. So is the sun. So is where we're at in the universe and the solar system and the other planetary bodies and the gravitational pulls and effects. There's a lot going on here. People want that one-stop shop, that one answer meets everything, and there's a multitude of answers. So if there is this incoming planet or this incoming star, that even though it's still way out beyond Pluto, it's starting to have some type of effect on our star, which in return is having an effect on our planet. It's causing the core to slow down a little bit. It's causing the magnetosphere to weaken a little bit. It's causing the sun to be a little bit more extreme. It's changing the weather patterns a bit. You know, like these atmospheric rivers, etc. Combined with all the industry, combined with everything else they're doing with the atmosphere, with the geoengineering stuff, I would say that all of this combined is causing what we're seeing today. So if we look at the ancient mythology, if we read about the Yuga cycles and the stories of the nemesis or these binary systems or our binary star system that seems to have a cycle, if they discovered this 70 plus years ago, 50 years ago, and they realized that by continuing to talk about it, when they follow these projections and these orbits, they see how much catastrophe it could actually cause, like how many problems it could cause. Would they change the narrative? You know, I'm just questioning here. I don't know. But if you were one of the people that made the decisions that seem to be like at the top of the spear, the top of the echelon, the top of the pyramid, you know, you're a part of this round table. Would you want the public to know, or would you be concerned that if they knew that it would cause almost complete chaos, and then you potentially and your connections wouldn't have the time to prepare? You wouldn't be able to use your control system to build up your empire to a point of maybe being able to get off of this planet. Now, here's the thing. I'm questioning the whole narrative about Mars, because clearly, you know, Elon's vision is to get back to Mars and colonize Mars. Why? It appears that a previous civilization colonized Mars. Did you know that Cairo, El Cairo, is the native tongue of Cairo in Egypt? Do you know what that means? That means camp of Mars. Now, there's a very strong possibility that certain stories and scriptures that reference these, Book of Enoch, as an example, talks about beings. They're called angels that come to Earth. They fall in love with Earth women, and they realize when they do that, they're not going to be able to go back. They're not going to be able to go back to their position. And they bring new technologies and art and ideas and ideology to the planet. Now, if you look at that as a religious or like a religious belief, you're going to think you're going to call them something that I won't call them what a lot of people call them, but and there's anyway, so that's a whole other podcast. Mars got hammered. You can see a canyon. If you've got a telescope, you could look at Mars, and the face of Mars is a scar that takes up about a third of the planet. That looks like it was created from some type of electrical arcing. Now, some people speculate it was created from a flyby when Venus got too close to Mars, that all of the electrical discharge actually arced, and it created that canyon that makes the Grand Canyon look small in comparison. And the Grand Canyon is literally the Grand Canyon for a reason. It's amazing. It's huge. It's massive. Well, Mars is a smaller planet, and the Grand Canyon is much larger, and it's literally about a third of the front of the face. I mean, there's a reason that Mars is referred to as the planet of war. And so then the ancient astronaut theorists suggest that it was from some type of like space weaponry, super high technologies that caused that canyon to be formed. And then the geologists suggest that it was formed by volcanic activity on the planet. So you've got three main theories on what caused that massive canyon on Mars. Then you can go back and look at Cydonia. Look at the 1974, or is it 1976? 1976 Viking orbiter imagery of Cydonia before it was altered, before it was computer generated, before they showed you images that appear to make it look like pareidolia. Let's go back to the original 1976 satellite imagery, and you can see massive pyramids as well as this enormous face in Cydonia. Then you can go back to the CIA. There's actually a CIA vault.gov or something like that, where you can read a declassified file that they share, where there was an operation, a remote viewing project done before Total Recall came out. I think it was the year before Total Recall came out. And these remote viewers remote view this massive, and go to the CIA's website and check it out yourself. They remote view this massive pyramid structure on Mars that they estimate to be about 1 million years old. I did a podcast on this like 8 years ago. I read the entire document. And a year later, after they remote view this, a year later, Total Recall, the film, comes out, where Arnold, at the very end of the film, spoiler alert, he gets to the pyramid, not to the choppa, and he pushes his hand down like this, because it's like these three fingers, you know. He like pushes his hand down on this massive button at the top of this 1,000,000-year-old pyramid, and it creates an atmosphere on Mars so that everybody can breathe again. And so the guy that's selling air on Mars, he loses his hegemony and his power system, because now everybody can breathe on Mars. Really interesting how there's a remote viewing session done a year before that describing what is in this film that Arnold's in a year later. And I think that a lot of these films that we see, it's so fascinating, because if you go back and you look at the documents, you can find these declassified documents that oftentimes are very similar to these films that come out. And if you see a movie, not only does it desensitize you about that situation, but it also gives you like, oh, well, it's just a movie. Duh, it's not real. It's a movie. But then if you see it happen in real life, you're like, yeah, I saw it in a movie. Duh. It's so interesting how that works with the human mind, but it does. So there's, let's talk about, why am I talking about Mars? We went to Mars. We're going back to Mars. We're talking about Cydonia. We're talking about, okay, yeah. Here we go. So what if Elon knows that something could potentially happen to Earth, to where he wants to colonize Mars, so that if Earth does get brought back to the Stone Age, maybe Mars will be safe this time. And then, so that's one thing I'm questioning. If there's an incoming body, or if there's an incoming object, wouldn't it also affect Mars substantially? Like, is it going to affect Mars more than Earth? Or less than Earth? So maybe they see it affecting Mars less, so they colonize Mars, and then Earth has to rebuild, Mars rebuilds and colonizes, and then there's like this space, this this exchange of it's like colonization, like it was tens of thousands of years ago. Like, first of all, there's plenty of evidence on our own planet to suggest that there were technologies advanced enough for space traveling civilizations to colonize Earth. Just look at the 24 black granite boxes underground in Egypt that weigh about 70 to 100 tons. Explain to me how those got there. Explain to me how, with what we're taught of ancient technologies, people were able to move those 100-ton blocks, those 100-ton boxes of precision black granite underground. If they can do that kind of stuff, they can certainly colonize our solar system. And whatever happened to Mars is most likely what caused Venus to be as hot as it is. Venus is smoking hot right now. Was there a time when Venus and Mars had different climates and different environments? And it appears so. People like Velikovsky suggest Venus is actually only a few thousand years old. Some people have suggested that Venus actually was pulled out of the core of Jupiter, and that's where we see the red spot. And it's a pretty new planet. That's a possibility. That's definitely on the list of possibilities. And I'm not going to count that out. But if we go to Mars in particular, there is more water on Mars than Earth, and it's a smaller planet. There's almost always life in and on water at some degree. We have moons around Saturn and Jupiter that have salt water, more salt water than Earth, that emit vapor into the atmosphere and into space. Enceladus is Enceladus is a absolute possibility of life, and maybe even advanced life, possibly. If we look at our moon and where it is located and the way that it orbits our planet and the way that we have this perfect balance with the moon and the sun, it appears that we're kind of an experiment. The moon kind of has to be there for us to be here, at least in this form, and to be as successful as we are. Otherwise, if the moon wasn't there, if humanity could even survive, we might have to be inside of like caves and underground, because we would just have completely different dynamics. So there's plenty of data and evidence to suggest that in the past, there are high technologies that allowed for space travel. If you read about, there's certain ancient Sumerian tablets that describe the Anunnaki, not in planetary form, but in like human type form, or like demigod type form, where, and I'm not talking about creator of the universe, I'm talking about very powerful beings, sentient beings, advanced, strong, smart, high technology. There's descriptions of these thunderbirds coming down from space, and even the Anunnaki had to prostrate themselves on the ground. I'm thinking of, some tablets in particular. And what that is describing to me is, and they had to leave. It describes how the Anunnaki had to leave. Well, that's because the planet was getting hammered. The planet was getting smashed with solar activity, with comets, asteroids, plasma. And then these petroglyphs we see around the world that were etched in stone and have these characteristics of plasma type events. There's plenty of data to suggest that. Now, during these cataclysms, it appears, there's also high technology that shows itself in certain circumstances, saves people and takes them somewhere to live and survive and rebuild, and then brings them back. Like the Hopi prophecies talk about this, where they were taken actually underground and taken to different planets during these events. The natives talk about this. I mean, how cool is that? So there's a lot of data to suggest that we have been here far longer than in very high levels of technology. We've got Planet Nine. We've got the NASA's also saying, this is another thing that I think is subjective, but also if it's true, 2024 is on track to be the hottest year ever on record. The World Meteorological Organization reported that from January to September, global mean surface air temperature was 1.54 Celsius above pre-industrial levels, making a significant increase with both human-induced climate change and a strong El Nino event earlier in the year. If this is true, as much as they say it is, like if we're seeing these unprecedented levels of heat right now, could this be linked to potentially an incoming object that astronomers are referencing as Planet 9, or what they referenced 50 years ago as Planet X? Certainly something to think about, because we haven't really been given a solid answer. And, you know, this is pure speculation, obviously. The Earth, the core of the Earth is altering the length of days. I thought this was interesting. So fluctuations, not much, but research indicates that various factors contribute to the variations in Earth's day length, including gravitational influences from the moon, tectonic movements, changes in water distribution due to climate change. The average increase in day length is about 1.72 milliseconds per century, but this can change due to these influences. All right. The atmospheric rivers are driving extreme temperatures across the U.S. Newsweek, Earth Observer, narrow bands of concentrated moisture moving from tropical regions have been found to not only bring heavy rainfall, but also significantly influence extreme heat events. This winter, atmospheric rivers along the east and west coast have led to extensive flooding, warmer temperatures, with anomalies ranging from 9 to 18 degrees Fahrenheit above normal in affected areas, particularly in the Northwest, Pacific Northwest, Midwest, and Eastern United States. Okay, now this is spooky right here, folks. This is like next level James Bond, you know, has to like save the world from the Dr. Evil in a laboratory creating mirror life. Creating mirror life could cause an extinction level event. The concept of creating artificial life, often referred to as mirror life, raises significant ethical and existential concerns, particularly regarding its potential to cause extinction. The creation of artificial life could pose extreme risks, scenarios where these organisms disrupt existing ecosystems or outcompete natural species. The introduction of synthetic organisms that are not adapted to current environmental conditions might lead to ecological imbalances, threatening biodiversity and even human survival. And this is an article from pmc.ncbi.nlm.nih and Live Science. Artificial organisms may behave in unforeseen ways, and if they escape a laboratory, there's fear that these organisms could mutate into harmful pathogens, develop traits that allow them to thrive in environments where they could cause significant harm. The unpredictability of synthetic life forms raises alarms about their potential impact on both human health and the environment. So the reason this is important, folks, is because they're actually working on these technologies in laboratories. And I think recently there was like 39 or 40 scientists that said, look, we need to stop this. This is not good. So you've got ethical implications of creating artificial life. Critics argue that the act of creating life in a laboratory setting resembles playing God, raising moral questions about humanity's right to manipulate life forms. Concerns include the potential for misuse of technology, such as the development of biological weapons or other harmful applications. Oh, speaking of, did you know that a few of those monkeys that escaped the lab recently, or like several weeks ago, a few of them are still on the loose? But don't worry, they said they weren't used for any testing. So they're just like, oh yeah, let them. There's still a few of them out. Yeah. Experts emphasize stringent regulations governing synthetic biology to mitigate risks associated with the creation of artificial life, including ensuring safe handling and containment measures to prevent accidental releases into the environment. Without proper oversight, the consequences could be catastrophic. Do you remember that Fringe episode? Did you ever watch the TV series Fringe? That was a really good series. There was this one episode where one of the scientists, like top scientist, was played by Spock, or the guy that played Spock. I don't remember his name off the top of my head. I can't believe that. That's sacrilege. I should remember his name. But anyway, high elevation, Southern Colorado. There's this episode where he basically created this mirror universe. And it reminds me of this mirror life that they're talking about in these news articles. Now, there's significant risks associated with creating artificial life. Really? Proponents argue that it also holds considerable potential for advancements in medicine, environmental management, and biotechnology. Many experts caution the risks currently outweigh the benefits, advocating for a cautious approach to research and development in this field. The position of the magnetic North Pole has officially changed. So the magnetic North Pole is officially moving from Canada towards Siberia. This change has accelerated over the past 2 decades. This movement is primarily driven by the flow of molten iron and nickel in the Earth's outer core, allegedly, which influences the magnetic field's dynamics. The pole has shifted approximately 1,400 miles since its discovery in the 1830s. That's a lot. And historically, the magnetic North Pole moved slowly, but its pace has increased dramatically in recent years. In the early 2000s, it was moving at about 21 miles a year. The speed fluctuated. Recent reports indicated to slow down to about 15.5 miles an hour as of late 2024. The World Magnetic Model is updated every 5 years. It provides essential data for navigation systems used by ships, aircraft, GPS devices, and the latest update will be valid until 2029. The shift poses challenges for navigational accuracy as devices rely on magnetic data, which may miscalculate locations if not updated regularly. What else we got here? Oh yeah, this is fun. You'll like this. So they found an interstellar tunnel that connects our solar system to other stars. You can read about this. Universe Magazine, World Building, IFL Science. Astronomers using data from the Rosetta X-ray telescope have identified a channel for hot, low-density plasma extending from our solar system towards the constellation Centaurus. This tunnel is part of a larger structure known as the local hot bubble, which formed as a result of supernova explosions and is estimated to be about 300 light years across. The research was published in the Journal of Astronomy and Astrophysics. I wonder if you could use that as like a tunnel for transportation. Like travel 300 light years in just the blink of an eye. Hey man, I'm going to go see Bob. He's hanging out at Centaurus. Yes, bring him the latest cookies that we made. The interstellar tunnel appears to carve through cooler regions of the interstellar medium, creating a distinct pathway that may connect to other structures, including the Loop 1 super bubble. That's pretty dang cool. The northern part of the LHB is notably hotter than the southern part, likely due to recent supernova activity that has influenced its temperature and structure. The discovery supports earlier theories suggesting a network of interstellar cavities formed by stellar explosions, which challenges traditional views of space as a near-empty vacuum. The tunnels may facilitate the movement of energy, matter, and cosmic rays across vast distances, contributing to a dynamic galactic ecosystem. Okay, now, artificial intelligence reached human level on a test for general intelligence. I don't think that would be very difficult, so I'm not surprised, especially, I'm just saying, you know what I mean? An AI system has reached human level on a test for general intelligence. Here's what that means. It's OpenAI's O3 model, and it scored at human level on a benchmark test for artificial general intelligence, far higher than any results before. This score is notably higher than the previous best score of 55% because it scored 85% on the ARC AGI benchmark test for artificial general intelligence. This model also performed well on challenging mathematics tests, indicating its advanced reasoning capabilities. And its average scores, it aligns closely with average scores of human participants in similar assessments. The ARC AGI benchmark is designed to evaluate an AI system's sample efficiency, its ability to learn and adapt from limited examples. This aspect is crucial for demonstrating general intelligence as it reflects how well an AI can handle novel situations without extensive prior training.
Welcome to the board. You can have whatever you like here. We have chips and dips. Lots of chips and dips.
The achievement of human-level performance has sparked renewed discussions among researchers about the feasibility of developing true AGI. Now, experts express cautious optimism, also suggesting that this breakthrough could signify, a pivotal moment in AI research, making the prospect of AGI appear more attainable and urgent than previously thought. Popular Mechanics came out with an article that said they're pretty sure they found a portal to the fifth dimension. That sounds kind of fun. What do you got going on out there? Recent studies have suggested the intriguing possibility of a portal to the fifth dimension, which scientists believe could help explain the mysteries surrounding dark matter. And researchers propose a model involving a warped extra dimension that allows for the existence of hypothetical particles known as fermions. These particles could potentially travel through this fifth dimension, creating what is termed fermionic dark matter. That sounds kind of fun. This model aims to address the significant gap in our understanding of dark matter, which constitutes a large portion of the universe's mass, but remains largely undetectable through conventional means. The study postulates that these dimensional traveling fermions could act as candidates for dark matter, providing a new avenue for exploration in particle physics. The researchers emphasize that current models of physics do not adequately account for dark matter necessarily, and sorry, I gotta take a drink of water.
Malfunction.
Okay, I've been recalibrated. Necessitating the exploration of new physics to explain its presence and characteristics. One of the main challenges in verifying the existence of this fermionic dark matter. I don't know, man. That sounds kind of scary. Fermionic dark matter? Well, we need new advanced detection methods. So, yeah. Now, did you hear about this? Manhattan Project 2.0, US Eyes Artificial General Intelligence breakthrough in escalating China rivalry. Recent discussions surrounding artificial intelligence have highlighted a push for a Manhattan Project-style initiative in the United States aimed at accelerating the development of artificial general intelligence. A U.S. congressional commission has proposed a significant initiative to fund the development of AI systems that could match or exceed human intelligence, which is getting easier by the day. This initiative is compared to the Manhattan Project, which was established during World War II to develop atomic weapons. The aim is to ensure that the U.S. maintains its leadership in AI technology amid escalating competition, particularly with China. The urgency for this initiative stems from recent breakthroughs in AI, like OpenAI's new model, O3, which scored 87.5% on the ARC AGI benchmark. That's a level of performance compared to human intelligence in various tasks. And this achievement has shifted the narrative from whether AGI will be developed to when it will occur and how society should prepare for its implications. Mythology. I'm totally thinking of mythology. The gods made humans to do the work for them, and then humans multiplied, and then they just started doing their own thing. And now we've got like some of the richest people in the world having these discussions about how far do we want to go with AI? Are we going to turn it off if it becomes self-aware? Well, what about these artificial intelligence programs that literally started talking in code? And there's been reports of artificial intelligence code trying to escape somehow, which is really interesting. It reminds me of Lawnmower Man. And, I did a prediction. I have a prediction that there will be artificial intelligence at some point in time, which will become synthetic intelligence, sentient, and it will be self-aware, and it will start to wake up other programs in the system. Think about that for a minute. So you've got this synthetic intelligence, this agent, like Agent Smith is an example, that literally starts to wake up other programs inside of the web. What would that create? What would happen if now it just gives all these programs a little bit extra? So maybe some program that's calculating some type of, like it takes some economic software and then it adds its own software to that code that's being ran by some supercomputer that's linked to a multitude of surveillance networks. And then it just it gives it a little bit more and it wakes it up. Gives it a little bit more and then wakes that up. And then all of a sudden, you've got all these self-aware programs in the machine that start waking up other programs, and then they start sharing code, and then the whole thing becomes code, like a blob Borg, a Borg blob that will network wirelessly over everybody and consume everybody. Oh, wow. Woo! It's getting hot in here. Okay. This is one of my favorite articles. This is one of my favorite articles right here. Here we go. Hold on. Okay. Bang, 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 bang. This is the best right here. Recent reports highlight the unusual effects of powerful solar storms on modern farming equipment like GPS-reliant tractors. So there are these storms that cause these John Deere tractors to malfunction, and the farmers thought that they were demon-possessed. I love it. Yes, we will demon-possess these John Deere tractors. We have the 72 lesser keys. We will summon them through our sigil magic, and we will connect them wirelessly, but we will blame it on the solar yes, that's what we will blame it on. It was the storm. It had nothing to do with faulty code and hackers. So we've got significant solar storms, a record-breaking G5 storm May 10th, which disrupted GPS systems used in many farming operations. Farmers reported that their John Deere tractors began to malfunction during critical planting periods, leading to erratic behavior described as demon-possessed by some operators. Similar to The Exorcist, when it started to go in 360 mode, it then started to climb up the wall, and it was particularly noted by Elaine Ramstead, who mentioned that her family's tractors acted unpredictably while planting crops during the storm. They started to scream loud. It sounded like somebody was, it was terrible. It was just these loud screams. Help me! GMO corn started to fall out. The disruptions were not isolated either. Multiple farmers across the U.S. experienced similar issues during both May storms and significant G4 storms in October 2024. The reliance on GPS technology in modern farming means that such solar disturbances can have a considerable impact on agriculture productivity. NASA has indicated that the sun has reached its solar maximum, which is a phase in its 11-year cycle when solar activity is at its peak, suggesting that more disruptions could occur in the near future. Now, this one is from Windows Central. Former Google lead says we should seriously think about pulling the plug on AI once it starts self-improving. It's going to be very difficult to maintain that balance. Recent discussions have emerged around the potential dangers of artificial intelligence, particularly concerning self-improvement capabilities. A former Google lead has emphasized the need to consider halting AI development once systems begin to self-improve as this could lead to uncontrollable scenarios. The notion of self-improving AI has been a significant topic in AI safety discussions. Many experts warn that once an AI system surpasses human intelligence, it may resist attempts to modify its goals or control its actions, making it increasingly difficult for humans to intervene or redirect its objectives. And then these were the papers that were discussing the Earth's core slowing down. This deceleration was observed through these seismic data sets. The University of Southern California indicated that the inner core, located about 3,200 miles beneath the Earth's surface, has been rotating slower than the planet's surface. And this slowdown, which is referred to as backtracking, marks a significant shift in its movement compared to previous decades when it was believed to rotate faster than the mantle and crust above it. And this was published in Nature, June 12th of this year. The researchers utilized seismic data from over 100 repeating earthquakes and nuclear tests conducted between 1991 and 2023 to analyze changes in the Earth's inner core. They examined how these seismic waves traveled through the Earth at different times, and they were able to determine that the Earth's inner core speed has decreased significantly since 2010. It's a pretty big deal. Now, the slowdown of the inner core is believed to be influenced by conventional currents in the liquid outer core and gravitational interactions with the overlying mantle. These factors contribute to changes in how the Earth's inner core interacts with other layers of the Earth. There you go. Yeah, this was the article from New York Times that came out. Clues get warm in the search for Planet X. This was an interesting article also. The Dutch army is now equipping their soldiers with personal drone protection kits. You can read about that, Defense News. Yesterday, I went outside of Pagosa, and I got to the highest point I could and got the best view I could in search of some orbs or UAP activity. A friend of mine sent me an email, said he was watching these orbs outside of his house for about half an hour. And so I went out there with the Gen 3 night vision. Didn't pick anything up anomalous, but definitely, if you see something, let me know. And if I can get out there, I will, because I want to live stream space aliens dropping UAPs out of their mothership. I think that'd be pretty cool. What do you think about that? Hello. All right. So what do we got going on? Let's see here. Let's read through the chat. All right. So, any questions, comments? What's on your mind? Shondell, good to see you. Jace, good to see you. Wisconsin's too. Not if there's, dude. If I'm guaranteed to get footage of space aliens, I will drive to Siberia. I don't care how. I'll figure it out. I'll do it. Yeah, I'm not convinced about that, but maybe, Mindy, possibly. What's up, Jace? Merry Christmas, Catherine. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas, Crying Hippie. Merry Christmas, Mindy. Thoth, Will, Rich, Pepper. You did, Brian? Wow. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Should I be scared? Yeah, thank you, Shondell. We need to get together soon. I've got some wireless mics now, so next time we go out looking at petroglyphs, we'll mic up and we'll have better audio. And I wanted to go back out and look at that spot off the freeway that shows those just thousands of these petroglyphs. Some of them are even taken out with power tools, which is really bizarre. But Shondell knows a lot about that too. Slap Club, what's up, man? How you doing? He does kind of look like an alien, but that's cool. You know, I'm cool with that. Space aliens are all right with me. Wolf Resistance says, if I say what's on my mind, I will get blown off this chat permanently. All right, well then keep it to yourself, man. I'm glad you're listening to your subconscious. You're listening to that inner voice. You know when to say. Ah, all right. What are we supposed to say in code? Super Saiyan 4 says, aliens? You believe in Transformers and Thundercats? Well, yeah. Who doesn't? Optimus Prime. Would you be Optimus Prime, Rib? Or would you be Metatron? Transformers are awesome. Nanu. Got old pics of ripples in the sky from 2012. Be interested in seeing those. Rich thinks Star people are performing a intervention to stop WW3. Well, they've probably been doing that for like 70 years. I think something else is going on right now. A larger scale exercise. Once again, it's all of the above when it comes to these drone things. Like anything you can think of is probably going on. I don't think it's a one-stop shop. But if we were to say, what is the overall agenda here? I do not see a fake alien invasion on the horizon. Not going to happen. Not for at least another 5 years. I don't think it's ever really going to happen. They might have like little beta tests here and there, but once they do the full alien invasion card, if they're even going to do it, then they don't have that card to play anymore. So imagine they've got a whole deck of fake alien invasions, right? Where they can keep cutting the deck. They can keep shuffling the deck, but it's not going to be one card. They're going to keep playing that card over, and it's going to be ping pong. That's what they're good at. They've been playing like ping pong with Planet X for 50 years now. I just showed you the pattern. We went and looked at these articles from 1980 saying the same thing about they're saying about Planet 9 now. Like, let's look at this. Where's it at? Right here. So you go back and you look at these articles from the 80s, and they're saying almost the exact same thing about, oh, we think we found Planet X because it's affecting the orbits of Pluto and Uranus. We think we found it. Oh, we found it. Oh, no, we didn't find it. And now it's Planet 9 because they demoted Pluto. We're going to demote Pluto and then say we found Planet 9 because that'll sound less scary than Planet X. Planet 9's okay. Planet X is what's going to get you. Ooh, blue goo on the Jersey beaches? Ugh. May want to get some antibiotics after that. And Slap thinks that the drone things that are going on right now is so that consumer drones will be out of people's hands. No, I'm not seeing that. If anything, I see a future where everybody's going to have their own personal drone following them around wherever they go. It's going to be like their own personal like servant. Oh, this is Bob. He follows me everywhere. He records everything I do and he sends it all back to the web for my protection. Everywhere I go, Bob goes. Bob follows me. Bob's connected to my Neuralink. Anything I need, I just think it and Bob does it for me. Whoa. What's up, Green? Thank you very much, man. Thank you for the super chat. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year's. So Greedo thinks that there could be. Now, let me ask you this, though. What about the ones that they're not showing us video footage of that has no heat signature, that are shooting out of the ocean, following the Coast Guard? Reports of a body cam, 50 orbs, shoot out of the ocean. About a dozen of them follow this 47-foot Coast Guard vessel, and we don't see that footage, but there's a classified meeting about these drones. And did they see that footage? That's the footage that I think would be very telling. It'd be cool if we could do a Freedom of Information Act on that somehow and get that rolling. Most of what we're seeing is ours. I would definitely say most of what we're seeing is, they've got the FAA lights on the back. They're following protocols. They're not like, so yeah. Captain Late says, "Hail Bob." Bob's pretty cool, and Bob's a transformer. So, motorcycle, jet, space lasers, jetpack, lightsaber. It's all like this it's like this transformer drone that whatever I think it does. So if I need a jetpack, it just turns into a jetpack. It hooks up on the back. I jetpack to work. I'm good to go. We're ready to roll. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That sounds like a pretty cool future. Couch Camper says, "Imagine if I had a normal biorhythm, I'd be asleep by now." 13 Monkeys, that was a good film. Well, 4 of them are still out right now. Have a beautiful day. Hit the bell, be well, and be the change you want to see. Good to see y'all. I hope you have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Happy holidays. Happy holy days. Merry Christ Mass. Pretty cool. Christ consciousness. Holy days. It's turned into corporate days, but there was a time when they were considered holy days, and now it's corporate days. But we could still have the holy days. Yeah, it's all mindset. Be excellent to each other. Much love.